We've got an agenda. We're going to do slides. Then we're going to talk about some code, and then we're going to have some questions. So any questions about the agenda we can't do because they're not there. So right, components. You all think you know about components, right? You make them at the moment, don't you? I bet all of you do components in some form, and the components have to do all this stuff. And I bet none of your components do all those things. That's apparently what they all have to do. Okay, and I reckon if you hit almost all of those, you then might compromise productivity, or you might compromise reusability or something like that, right? So it's usually, the solution is usually something that fits your little world, okay? The best description I could find out, right, is just, as far as you're concerned, it's got to be functionally independent, okay? Now, that means you then reach for your favorite tool. Has anybody heard of React? Hands up. Nobody? Right. Okay, React is a very handy little tool. It's basically just a templating tool. And it's become immensely popular. There are others, but you know what? We love React, and it's chuffing amazing. It's usually, that's how most of us learned ES6 and got into using, even things like Prettier came along at the same time, and then we started using, when we do the render method, what have I bloody forgotten it? When we write our HTML, that one. JSX, thank you, that one. I do it every day. We use JSX, which is, when you first heard about it, you were slightly sick in the mouth. I thought, shit, I'm doing HTML in JavaScript, this is rotten. And now you've forgotten those dark days and you love it, right? It's amazing. So it does awesome things for us, and we want that later on. So our component has to be awesome, but go out into the big wide world and be on its own, functionally independent, right? Can you say that about when you make your React or Vue components? Can you pop them on any website and use them? Possibly, but I think you're going to have a bit of a download of like a React framework or a Vue framework. But I think we can do better than that, can't we? Right. Now, what we're going to do is make a declarative, as my colleague just taught you about earlier, declarative language. We want a bit of HTML, don't we? Something like a little super duper image which does an image tag. This is your custom image tag. It's going to be amazing, right? So we're going to dive straight into some code. Ha! No, I lied. Right. The thing is, when you start Googling for class, first of all you get pictures of children, then your search history goes well dodgy. Then you think, oh, I'll put a bit of hierarchy in there, and it goes further weird. Then you think, oh, I know, I can help. Bit of JavaScript. No, what's that about? We've been doing this for years, right? JavaScript hasn't got a clue what classes are until recently, as you all know. You've all started using it, right? Now then, what we want to do is native, built-in, super duper amazing components, right? Things, and nowadays, the browsers can do this, okay? All the major guys do it, and it can even be made to work in that stinky thing called Internet Explorer. A bit, mostly. So the major guys handle this stuff, right? We can use a class, and we extend an HTML element, and then we can register it, and then we can suddenly use this tag in HTML. That is brilliant, right? Suddenly, we've got our own little markup language. Right, I'm going to flick over to Chrome. That works. Yes. Okay. And we're going to do our own little component. Can you? Is that big enough at the back? Can you see that, or do you need it extra bigger? Right. Okay. Good, because I can't work out what's going on if it's too big. We're making that tag there, and it spits out that there. And see, I'm from Gloucestershire, so I sometimes go bit that there. And we're going to write the code here. So, wow, it's that simple. We made a little component. Okay. Now, there's a bit of CSS in there. I'll show you that before we move on. Just to demonstrate, our custom component can be styled in CSS in the same old way we always want to. All right. Same old. We're all familiar with that. Stick a tag in CSS and we're away. Bosh. Now, look at this. We extend the HTML element, okay? Then we want a constructor. No one knows why, but in the days of, if everyone's used Angular was a bit street, right? And it had init. So like, So we've moved on, right? We're much cooler than that. The quinoa generation. We now make all our components are super, so we do that. It's better, right? We've changed, we've evolved, right? None of this ghetto stuff. Okay, but to make it all work, we have to put in some HTML, right? And in this native magical language that we're finding, we just whack it in there, inner HTML tag attribute, and we're fine. Now, you're sort of thinking, yeah, but React is kind of cool, and that's a bit icky. Well, all right, okay. Yeah, that's what you're thinking, I know. So we want to move on a bit. Let's open another one. Done that one. Right. So we want to pass some attributes to our super duper new component, right? We construct a, we don't know. Let's get rid of that. Let's just close that away. Now, to look at our attributes, we simply look at this.get attribute, and we can pick out the source and an out. We're making an amazing image tag, okay? So, first of all, you'll see at the bottom, we've got, we're trying something a bit close to JSX. We're using template literal to whack in an image tag, source and alt in there. Can you all see that from the back? Yeah. Didn't even wait for a response, but let's hope. So now, we did get this get attribute right now, and that means we want to pass in some attributes. So we're going to stick in an alt equals. Now this is for the benefit of anybody on a screen reader that knows they're really not missing out. We can grab a source in there. Oh look, see, look, we haven't got a source yet, so it's showing that, right? Let's grab one of those, whack it in there. Now we start to have a component, okay? Now we can put all sorts of magical code in here in ways that just plain old JavaScript, so I'm going to get a bit of that. We'll do a bit of validation on our props. Whack that in there. And then if I leave off the alt, you get a little bit of help there. Now, see, it's not a great leap to start thinking, well, I can make an image tag that helps people not mess things up. Perhaps you've got a content management system that where authors with different abilities may be prone to leaving off alt tags. Who knows? It can happen. But you can help with these kind of components. All right. Now, same goes for source. Oops. I think I meant to put that back there. And then same goes for source. If you leave that off, which is also quite serious, then yeah, you can do another message, right? So it can mess around, right? Okay. But what we're thinking is, this is a bit messy. Actually, that'll do for now. Okay. What we really need, as it says here, is something to help us, because we love our JSX, but we're not seeing it here. We're using set attribute or get attribute, and we've got this weird connected callback. What the chuff is that? I want to be in my happy world of component did load and will mount and those kind of things, right? And so we need help. Okay, you can carry on like this, and it's awesome. You can get there. You can do these amazing things. But let's have a look. See what we can do about it. Right. Okay. Now, first of all, you Google. I need a magical reusable web component, right? And then weirdly, something comes up. It's a bit of luck, really. There's a framework called Stencil. This isn't the only framework. There's lots. This is just nice because, well, you know what it does? It helps you write this code. Then it buggers off. It doesn't say, I'm going to hang around and do a massive download for you and break all your websites and stop everything working, and then people worry about site speed. It compiles nice code that you're familiar with to the wacky world of web components. Okay, so there's some things here that are a little bit familiar. We're romping through this, by the way. I hadn't timed it because people kept interrupting me. So I thought it was going to last 3 hours, but it's actually going to be about 15 minutes. Okay. we can define stuff in a nicer way. We're going to use TypeScript. Stencil likes a bit of TypeScript, and we can define properties, a bit like what we've been doing, but in a different way. We can have a bit of state going on. We can have a method there. It's kind of familiar. The did load is a bit like did mount, and render. And then thank God look JSX. Oh, that's a relief. Woo, that's so good. So you're now in a happy place, right? You can move to this new world without too much. Let's not do that yet. Let's look at some actual code here, right? Okay. We're going to make we've made a little component very similar to what we just saw. Okay. And let's bring it up in Chrome. Probably that one. There we go. Do you need this to be bigger? Okay. More? You're all right. Okay. Yeah. Right. So we've got a couple of props at the top. Source and alt. That's the ones we were just playing around with. We could put defaults on them if we want, and we could put a bit of logic later on to sort them out. Then we've got this is wacky. This is just me showing off. You can have a loading attribute, okay, which it lets you. It's a normal prop, but this guy firstly we can switch on mutable, which lets the code change the prop. Bit weird. Some of you might be a bit upset about that if you're all pure and things. And then reflect to attribute means if when we change it internally, it will actually change in the markup at the top of the where you declare it. Let's just get to that index.html. Close that. So there it is. That's the guy. And what it's going to do when the prop changes internally, you'll end up with a loading attribute on here in the markup. Let's see if that works. Where's the best place to put this? Alt source class, right. That's too small for you guys, isn't it? Let's do that. Right. So what we get is, if you can see can everyone see the bottom of the screen, or do you need me to move it up? Can you see that?
To the right.
To the right. That's also an option. Yep. Yep. You mean different screen? Right. There we go. So, there better. Okay. Hello world. Right. So there's our tag, and it's rendered an image inside it. And it's stuck some classes and stuff on it. So let's just dive into that a smidge, right? Now then, we've got a render method which does sticks out an image tag, and it's got class and it's got an event on it, just like you would do in other frameworks that are available. That's pretty patronizing. The marketplace has extensions that can help with basic files. Cheers, dude. So on load method, we're just gonna when the image loads, we're gonna change a couple of properties from loaded to loading, and these should in theory get reflected out to the thingy, to the markup. I didn't see that happen, so you'll have to just pretend it did. Definitely worked earlier. I don't see an attribute on there, isn't it? It's weird, isn't it? Okay. Then we've also got state here, which is kind of similar to React state. You can have any value you like in there. And it handles it internally. Let's face it, it's just going to be a variable in the class. That's all it is. That's all it ends up as. But it acts like a prop, in as far as if anything changes that state, then it causes a re-render. So it's useful in that way. Right now, see, we built our lovely component there. The reason that you're seeing half an image is because I've got a weird URL in it. There we go. You're happy now. Now, we wanted to do more stuff, right? It's okay, but it kind of stops there. Right. So we've got onload, component did load. That changes. We talked about, can we use this somewhere else, this component, right? And to make that happen, you need to, if you put that, if you use that right now, you'll notice that all the CSS from your page totally restyles it, does its own thing. If we demonstrate here, there's some styles further up the page where we can, if I just do that, if we did something else on it, like border, 20 pixels red, that went weird. What's happened there? Have I changed the code without remembering? Yeah, I got rid of a bit of code. Okay. There we go. Loaded. That's going to steal code from here. Put it in there. Okay, so now we're going to put a little extra div in there to wrap it. There we go. Right. Now, what a weird demo. So what I wanted to show is if you start with Shadow DOM, you'll be utterly mystified as to why CSS from the page cannot get into your component, right? And this is called Shadow DOM, okay? Cool segue. Right, okay. And the Shadow DOM lets you make super duper protected components. So it stops bad shit from happening. Probably should have been called condom, but it's better, probably. And so it protects your markup, okay? Now, also weird shit happens. We'll get to that. First of all, debugging. Oh, don't get me started. But yeah, you saw there, it stopped the style from outside getting in. Right, so how do we style the bloody things? Is to, here, what we've got. Stencil lets us, as well as defining the tag that we're going to make, it lets us bring in some Sass or CSS, whatever you like, as long as it's CSS. Now, let's bring that there. Right, now the way you target that, if you're using Shadow DOM, if you're not using Shadow DOM, you just target it like a normal selector. If you are using Shadow DOM, then you have to use host. I've put them both in there because apparently I can make mistakes during demonstrations. So this now will style everything inside in a protected way. So if we have a look, if we what attribute could we change to enable the Shadow DOM? I need your help. Maybe we could just do that, right? Oh, now we need a comma. Right, so now it's enabled, and we can go in here, we do a quick refresh, right? And all our styles bugged off. Now, what's happened here? Oh, look! Shadow root. Now, what I wanted to do is show you that a lot of the built-in components, like selectbox and some of the other slightly more complex elements, they also use shadow root secretly behind the scenes. And even Edge did before they even knew what they were doing. But if you look in here, that's cheeky. It's got a little style attribute and a little div. Okay. So this is our code, but it's taken our CSS and whacked it in there. Okay. And then the magic happens. And this stuff doesn't leak out and doesn't let anything in. Okay. So it's a very well-made condom. Right. Right, now I'm using dev version, so you saw that was just a general CSS, big CSS. When you go into production build, Stencil packs out all that, makes it diddy, okay? Now, one weird outcome, fun fact, when you start thinking like this, you start to use less global CSS and more built into your component. Because if you want it to work anywhere, you've got to bring with it the right font and the right colors and stuff like that, and you think, oh, that goes against everything I've been told because we put everything in global and it's very efficient and we reuse, and then months later no one dares touch global because no one really knows what they're going to affect. So actually there's a weird win, because what you do is, although it's repetitive, you could have two components that bring in the same font and fonts and colors, and it kind of doesn't matter because it's not a huge overhead, but also you don't get this one lump of code that no one dares touch because actually each component is bringing their own thing. It's cool. And in a build system like this, it's the same code being pulled into all your components anyway. So you can still make problems for yourself if you're really keen. Right. Okay, I was going to show you something weird. One last weird thing. Okay. Now, there's a concept called slots. S-L-O-T. In case. Where you can pass stuff into a slot and from outside. So here we go. Let's get rid of this guy. And you pass in children, right? So I could do div hello. Right. Now, did you see that for a moment? Yeah, it just came up at the edge there. So that has taken the child element and whacked it into our slot there. If I moved it in front of the image, it would appear right there. So it just does a little bit of wiring up for you. And that little bit there is actual web component doing stuff. So this is where you break away from React and Vue and stuff like that, because when this runs, right, your markup's already on the page. So you're picking up children. It's going weird again. You're picking up the markup's already in there, and it picks it up and then wraps it and puts it inside your re-rendered component. It's a bit strange, but it's a different way of thinking, and it can get you in a bit of a tangle if you're not expecting it. So now you're expecting it. Right, slots can take you. You can do more with that, right? So I want to put in loads of different stuff. I want to do another one. Right. So we've got two messages, okay? But I want to be really quite careful where they go. So you can do slot equals I don't know. Let's call it hello 1 and slot equals hello 2, right? And now, oh god, they've gone. Oh bloody hell! Right. So all you have to do here is name your slot. Okay. Oh, I've done that. With that. Thank you. What was it? Hello 1 or something. There we go, and it's back. Woo! So you can take one of those and you can put it up before. You could put the second one there, and that starts to happen. So, okay, it's slightly less beautiful, but you get the idea that you can pass stuff through, right? Cool. Now, okay, now weird shit starts to happen, right? Because I talked about Shadow DOM. It protects everything inside, right? But it now has a hole in it. Okay, so everything that is you render here. This image is protected, but all the children you pass through have fallen out of that hole, the other side of the Shadow DOM, and they're now in the big wide world again. It's super weird. Maybe some people are expecting it, but if you're not, it's mental. Because you think, I know, I'll make a cool component, pass an image tag image element into it, and a header, and it'll adopt the styles of my cool component. But if they're in slots, they fall out of your protected zone, and they're in the wild again. So there are some ways around that. The way you handle children is you put them into an array when the component loads, and then you spit them out again where you need them. So you have to. And then you're in control of the render of those elements, and if everything changes, you're then wrapping them in the Shadow DOM. It's strange, but it kind of works. All right, awesome. Cool. Thank you all.
George. Round of applause for George, everyone.
Thank you.